All across the world, ancient clues are staring us in the face, carved into stone, buried beneath temples, etched into bones. And yet, no one knows who made them, why they're there, or how they even exist. These are not legends. These are real discoveries that defy science, rewrite what we thought we knew, and point to a past far stranger than we ever imagined. Hidden high in the Andean highlands of Peru lies a stone that has defied explanation for decades, not because of its size or grandeur, but because of the enigma carved into its surface. Known as the Sayhuit monolith, this mysterious artifact may appear to be just a weathered block of stone at first glance. But look closer, and you'll see something truly astonishing: a miniature world sculpted in intricate detail, filled with canals, terraces, pools, stairways, and complex hydrological structures, all etched into a single, solid granite boulder. But what does it mean? And perhaps more importantly, what was it used for? That question remains one of the great unresolved mysteries of ancient South America. What do you think could this be? A sacred map of a vanished world? A practical engineering tool for ancient water systems? A spiritual landscape used in forgotten rituals? Or something even more mysterious, something we've yet to imagine? We'd love to hear your theory. Drop your thoughts and wildest guesses in the comments below. The Sayhuit monolith measures about 2 meters in length and is covered with over 200 geometric and organic features. Tiny staircases climb to nowhere. Channels twist and divide like rivers in a delta. Basins pool together while miniature aqueducts feed or drain them. At first glance, it looks like a model, a map perhaps, or a hydraulic playground frozen in stone. But scholars and explorers have spent years trying to determine what it was meant to represent and why it was made. Some see it as a ceremonial object, maybe used in rituals to honor water deities. Others think it might have been a hydraulic laboratory, a scale model to test water flow in larger irrigation systems. Still others go even further, suggesting it could be a symbolic representation of the cosmos, or even a coded message from a lost civilization. And then there's the most compelling theory of all, that the Sayhuit monolith was a sacred map, but not just of physical terrain, a map of spiritual flows, of ancestral knowledge, of a world that no longer exists. What makes Sayhuit so unusual is not just its design, it's the precision of the layout. The channels appear to have been engineered to carry water from one level to another. Some researchers have poured water onto the stone and watched as it trickled through its carved arteries, sometimes flowing naturally, sometimes pooling mysteriously. The conclusion: it might not just be artistic, it might be functional. If so, what kind of function? Some scholars suggest that Sayhuit was used to test irrigation techniques, especially for mountainous terrain like the Andes. Before building massive aqueducts or terraces for agriculture, ancient engineers may have experimented with flow patterns on this very stone. In other words, Sayhuit could be the earliest known 3D hydraulic model in the Americas. But that theory has problems. Some of the channels don't actually work in any logical way. Others connect seemingly at random or appear to defy gravity. That has led others to think the model was never meant to function, at least not in a practical sense. Instead, it might be ritualistic, a stone map to guide the spirits of water through sacred paths. The flow of energy, not just water. Could it be both? A sacred tool that merges spiritual intention with technical knowledge, a convergence of engineering and cosmology, a symbolic map that doesn't represent terrain, but rather divine order. That's the beauty and the frustration of Sayhuit. It refuses to explain itself. One of the reasons the Sayhuit monolith remains so mysterious and remarkable is that no other artifact like it has ever been found, not in Peru nor anywhere else in the world. There is no other stone bearing similar carvings and no known structure that uses such a complex symbolic language. This makes Sayhuit a truly singular phenomenon, nearly impossible to categorize within any known system of ancient culture belief or engineering. Researchers are forced to speculate by comparing it with Inca and pre-Inca traditions, but even those similarities are tenuous at best. What makes the story even more intriguing is that although Sayhuit is located in a region once controlled by the Inca, archaeologists believe the stone may predate the Inca Empire entirely. There are no inscriptions, no identifying symbols, only a network of cryptic grooves and carvings that seem to be conveying a message lost to time. One aspect that has particularly caught the attention of archaeologists is the astonishing level of craftsmanship and precision on the surface of the Sayhuit monolith. It is made of granite, a type of stone, known for its extreme hardness and difficulty to carve, especially using pre-Columbian tools that lack steel or modern technology. And yet the carved channels on the stone are smooth and naturally curved, the water basins are perfectly symmetrical, and the entire layout is executed with remarkable precision and intentionality, as if the artisan had fully visualized the model before carving even the first line. What's even more surprising is that there are no visible chisel marks, cracks, or mistakes anywhere on the surface. The grooves appear soft, and even so much so that some have suggested the stone may have been softened or molded into shape. This detail has sparked a number of controversial theories that the ancient builders possessed a now lost technology, or that they may have used plant-based acids or solutions to soften the stone. While most mainstream scholars remain cautious about such ideas, there is one point on which nearly everyone agrees: Sayhuit was not made by amateurs. Whatever its purpose was, its creator knew exactly what they were doing. The monolith was discovered in Apurimac, Peru, near a site known as Concacha. This region is rich in archaeological ruins, many of which are attributed to the Inca and their predecessors. But Sayhuite doesn't fit neatly into either category. It stands alone literally and symbolically on a raised platform facing the sky, exposed to the elements like a monument. It feels as though it was meant to be seen, not hidden away in a temple, but displayed, possibly used in open-air ceremonies or teachings. This suggests it might have been a focal point for communal gatherings, a place where water was poured and rituals were performed, not just to worship the element of water, but to understand its flow, its power, and its place in the cosmos. Perhaps the real mystery of the Sayhuit monolith is not what it represents, but how we're trying to interpret it. Modern minds look for utility. We assume maps must represent territory, models must reflect real-world systems, but ancient cultures often blurred the line between the physical and the metaphysical. A stone model might not map a river basin. It might map the spiritual energy of water. A basin might not be for irrigation, it might be a portal to another realm. What if Sayhuit wasn't meant to be solved, but to be experienced, like a sacred riddle in stone, a puzzle that guides thought, not answers questions? Far from the pyramids and tourist trails of Egypt, in a quiet corner of the desert near Luxor, there is a ceiling that holds a secret. Not a myth, not a legend, but a carved star map so precise, so advanced, it has left modern scientists speechless. Etched in solid stone, over 2,000 years ago, this mysterious relic charts the heavens with an accuracy that defies its age. This is not just ancient art. It is a cosmic puzzle, a message from the past, and a challenge to everything we think we know about the history of astronomy. It is called the Dendera Zodiac. What do you think? Could ancient civilizations really have mapped the stars with such precision without telescopes, computers, or modern math? Drop your theory in the comments below. Was it lost knowledge, or something even stranger? Carved into a massive sandstone slab, weighing nearly 20 tons, the Dendera zodiac rests on the ceiling of the Temple of Hathor, part of the ancient Dendera temple complex. From the very first glance, this star map breaks away from every familiar pattern of ancient Egyptian art. Instead of the typical square layout or traditional geometric symmetry, it presents a complex concentric circle where human figures, animals, and celestial symbols revolve around an imagined central axis. At the heart of the map is the arched figure of the sky goddess Nut, symbolizing the all-encompassing universe. She is surrounded by deities like Osiris and Horus, and most notably, the 12 zodiac signs, a rare fusion of Greek astrology and Egyptian mythology. However, what truly stuns modern astronomers is not just the religious symbolism, but the way the map displays the positions of planets and celestial phenomena with astonishing precision. What appear to be mystical carvings in stone actually reveal a deep understanding of the night sky, as if the ancients weren't merely gazing upward, but had somehow deciphered the cosmic mechanics of the universe through stone itself. For centuries, scholars have fiercely debated the true purpose of the Dendera zodiac. Was it merely a religious symbol, like countless other carvings found in Egyptian temples, or was it in fact a functional astronomical instrument? As modern scientists began to examine its details closely, they uncovered a series of anomalies, some of them almost unbelievable. Carved into the stone are unmistakable depictions of Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, all arranged in a clearly intentional pattern. When astronomers recreated the night sky above Dendera using digital sky simulation software, they were stunned to discover that the planetary positions in the zodiac matched almost exactly with the night sky on March 7, 51 BCE. Not just the planets, but also the sun, the moon, and the lunar nodes, the precise elements needed to predict solar and lunar eclipses, were all included with a level of accuracy that defies the era in which it was created. This revelation raises a profound and unsettling question. How could the ancient Egyptians have tracked celestial movements with such precision? They had no telescopes, no optical star charts, and no modern mathematical equations. Could they have relied purely on naked eye observation and oral records passed down through generations, or are we confronting a level of knowledge that modern history has yet to recognize? Faced with the astronomical precision of the Dendera zodiac, far ahead of its time, scholars have been compelled to propose a range of controversial theories. Some researchers believe the ancient Egyptians achieved this accuracy through centuries of careful naked eye observation, gradually accumulated across generations and encoded into symbolic stone carvings. They may have tracked the movements of planets' eclipses and lunar cycles over thousands of years, eventually constructing a comprehensive astronomical model. However, even this cautious theory fails to fully explain the remarkable precision of the map, especially its near-perfect alignment with the night sky on a specific historical date. More daring theories suggest that the Dendera zodiac was not originally created by the Egyptians themselves, but is instead a remnant of a far older civilization, one that may have vanished with the Egyptians merely inheriting and preserving its knowledge. Proponents of the Lost Atlantis theory even view it as proof of an advanced, forgotten scientific legacy. Another line of thinking places the zodiac within the Greco-Egyptian Ptolemaic period, when Greek astrology deeply influenced Egyptian cosmology. But whether Greek or Egyptian in origin, the core question remains unanswered. How could people of that time create such a precise circular star map without any modern scientific tools? Many archaeologists believe that the Dendera zodiac was not merely a snapshot of the sky, but may have been used as an ancient astronomical calendar. It could have helped track seasonal cycles, lunar phases, solar and lunar eclipses, and even religious ceremonial dates. This raises a fascinating possibility. Could it have functioned as a stone computer, similar to the Antikythera mechanism of Greece, but even older and more complex? If so, it would mean that the ancients didn't just observe the heavens, they were actually programming time in stone. On the Dendera zodiac, one can clearly recognize the familiar 12 zodiac signs: Aries, Taurus, Gemini. This is surprising, as these symbols are believed to have originated in Mesopotamian and Greek civilizations, yet here they are prominently displayed in an ancient Egyptian temple. However, some scholars argue that the Egyptians did not merely borrow these symbols, but rather restructured and integrated them into their own cosmic belief system. To them, the Dendera zodiac was not a personal horoscope, but rather a cosmological diagram where each zodiac sign represented a universal force, a stage in the soul's journey through time and rebirth. It was not astrology for predicting fate, but rather a symbolic language of the sacred universe. Today, the original Dendera zodiac no longer resides in Egypt. It was removed by the French and transported to the Louvre Museum in Paris in 1821. Only a replica remains on the temple ceiling in Dendera. Yet no matter its location, this map remains an unresolved enigma. It continues to astonish, not just because of its astronomical precision, but because of the deep thought embedded within a worldview where the sky wasn't just a backdrop, but a sacred system of order, fate, and eternity. The Zodiac Temple of Dendera is no ordinary religious site. It is an ancient observatory, a cosmic diagram, a coded timekeeper, and above all, a reminder that our ancestors may have known far more than we ever imagined. The Dendera Zodiac doesn't just surprise historians, it challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient science and forces us to ask, has modern science truly surpassed the ancients? Or are we merely rediscovering what they already knew long ago? In the wild, arid lands of Balochistan, where ancient stone mountains face the vast Arabian Sea, a creature lies in slumber, not of flesh and bone, but of stone. A colossal rock formation with a hauntingly strange shape, its head raised high like a king, surveying the horizon, its body stretched forward like a guardian, watching over secrets buried for millennia. It has no name in textbooks, and you won't find it on tourist maps. Locals call it the Balochistan Sphinx, a forgotten sphinx buried by time and overlooked by the modern world. Since the first images surfaced on the internet, waves of debate have erupted. Is this truly a masterpiece of nature, or could it be the remains of a lost civilization, one that might rewrite the history of ancient Asia? And the strangest part, it bears an uncanny resemblance to the Great Sphinx of Giza, so much so that many believe this cannot simply be a coincidence. What do you think about the Balochistan Sphinx? Is it simply the work of wind and time, or a forgotten man-made structure? Could an ancient civilization have once existed here, perhaps even older than Egypt, but vanished without a trace? If an official excavation were conducted, what do you think we might find beneath the rock? Share your thoughts, theories, or even your doubts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. At first glance, the Balochistan Sphinx immediately evokes the image of the Great Sphinx of Giza in Egypt. It lies flat against the stone terrain, with its head raised, a face seemingly defined, and a shape that resembles the traditional headdress worn by ancient Egyptian pharaohs. Its body stretches out in a resting posture. The overall symmetry, the sharply defined contours, and the clean lines on the surface, all these details make it feel far too proportionate to be the product of mere natural erosion. From certain angles, the head of the formation appears to show facial features, a straight nose bridge, a well-defined chin line, and even indentations resembling eyes that gaze forward. Behind it, the body has a continuous smooth curvature, much like the lion-shaped lower half of ancient Sphinx sculptures. Some observers have even pointed out that the lower stone platform resembles paws, or a pedestal similar to the bases found beneath temple statues. What's particularly striking is that the Balochistan Sphinx has never been carved by hand, at least as far as current assessments go, yet its balance and shape are so precise that many cannot help but exclaim, "If this wasn't made by humans, then nature has performed a miraculous act of sculpture." Across the world, there are countless rock formations with unusual shapes, but few have caused as much stir as the Balochistan Sphinx. What makes this structure remarkable is not just its bizarre form, but its astonishing resemblance to the Great Sphinx of Giza in Egypt, a symbol deeply tied to myth power and the unresolved mysteries of ancient civilization. The head of the Balochistan rock formation evokes the image of the Nemes headdress, the striped headcloth traditionally worn by Egyptian pharaohs. While exact details remain hard to confirm, its silhouette from a distance creates an uncannily familiar impression, as if we're looking at an ancient statue restored to life. The body lies in a crouched, recumbent position, typical of Sphinx statues found from Egypt to Asia. Most strikingly, the entire structure exhibits a clear symmetry, a feature extremely rare in naturally eroded formations, especially in arid environments where erosion is random and uneven. This strong resemblance has led some independent researchers to propose that this may not be just a variant of the Egyptian Sphinx, but rather an entirely separate ancient Sphinx created by a lost civilization that may have existed before or alongside ancient Egypt, and then vanished without leaving a trace. What makes the Balochistan Sphinx even more mysterious is that it doesn't stand alone. Right beside it lies another massive rock formation, which many believe to be the remnants of an ancient temple carved directly into solid stone. Although it has not been officially studied, the structure clearly displays features that compel closer examination. A large stone staircase leading upward, arch-shaped entrances resembling temple gateways, freestanding columns, and multiple layered platforms like those found in ancient sanctuaries. Despite centuries of erosion from time and harsh climate, the overall form still retains a coherent architectural layout, prompting many to ask, could this be the long-lost remains of a forgotten temple complex? If a proper archaeological excavation were ever conducted, it's entirely possible that foundations or structural elements thousands of years old might be uncovered. Yet to this day, no official archaeological investigation has ever taken place at this site, a glaring omission that continues to frustrate many independent researchers and enthusiasts. Despite its highly unusual shape and the many theories suggesting it may have artificial origins, the Balochistan Sphinx has never been officially excavated or subjected to any formal archaeological study, either by the Pakistani government or by any international institution. The commonly cited reasons include the site's remote location, difficult access, harsh geological conditions, and a lack of research funding. However, given its potential to reshape our understanding of ancient Asian civilizations, this prolonged silence raises a serious question. Is this merely an accidental oversight, or is something being deliberately concealed? How can a structure that might open an entirely new chapter in South Asian archaeology be left in obscurity? This persistent lack of attention has led many to grow suspicious, believing that the Balochistan Sphinx is not just an unsolved mystery, but perhaps a door to the past that someone is intentionally keeping shut. Not only does the Balochistan Sphinx possess an unusual shape, but it is also located in one of the most sacred regions of Pakistan, near the Hinglaj Mata Temple, where thousands of Hindu devotees make pilgrimages each year. This land has long been intertwined with ancient legends and is often referred to as a transitional zone between the world of gods and humans, where deities once descended and ancient civilizations once flourished before disappearing without a trace. It is precisely this cultural and spiritual backdrop that elevates the stone Sphinx from a mere geological oddity to a deeply mysterious symbol, as if it were a surviving fragment of an ancient world still beyond our full understanding. The more one observes the landscape, the more it feels as though this place preserves not just rock and soil, but also sacred stories buried by time. The Balochistan Sphinx is more than just a bizarrely shaped rock. It stands as a symbol of everything we have yet to understand about our planet, about ancient history, and the possible existence of civilizations that vanished without a trace. If it is merely the result of erosion, then nature has produced a sculpture so perfect it defies belief. But if it is man-made, then we are standing before a discovery that could rewrite the entire archaeological map of Asia. Until a proper excavation and scientific investigation is carried out, the Balochistan Sphinx will remain a mystery lying silently among the barren hills, waiting for someone curious enough, skeptical enough, and bold enough to uncover the truth. Beneath the blazing sun of West Africa, across windswept savannas and forgotten trails, stand thousands of towering stone pillars, silent, ancient, and utterly unexplained. They form perfect circles. Some are massive, some are modest. All are deliberate. Known as the stone circles of Senegambia, this sprawling network of over 1,000 megalithic formations, comprising nearly 30,000 hand-carved stone columns, stretches across the modern nations of Senegal and the Gambia. But here's the mystery. There are no inscriptions, no known architects, no written records, just stone and silence. And for centuries, one haunting question has echoed across the ages. Who built them? And why? Who do you think built these mysterious stone circles? And for what purpose? Are they the remnants of a lost civilization or the legacy of ancestors whose memory has faded with time? Share your thoughts or theories in the comments below. We'd love to know how you interpret this ancient mystery. The Senegambian stone circles stretch across a vast region approximately 350 kilometers long and 100 kilometers wide, forming one of the densest and most complex megalithic zones in the world. Each circle typically consists of between 8 and 25 stone columns, standing upright in meticulously laid patterns, mostly circular or elliptical. These stones, some reaching heights of 2.5 meters and weighing several tons, were all hewn from laterite, an iron-rich reddish stone that hardens upon exposure to air. The consistency and precision of their shapes suggest not just technical prowess, but also an enduring vision, a cultural or spiritual drive that has yet to be fully understood. Despite their scale and visual power, the stone circles remained virtually unstudied for decades. Only in recent years have archaeologists begun to uncover their secrets. And even then, the biggest question remains unanswered. The most compelling and perplexing aspect of the Senegambian circles is the complete absence of clear historical attribution. Unlike the pyramids of Egypt or the Great Zimbabwe ruins, no definitive civilization has stepped forward from the mists of time to claim these works. No inscriptions, no written records, no myths that survive intact in oral traditions to point to a definitive builder. This void has led to a wide array of competing theories. One prevailing hypothesis suggests that the stone circles were built by the ancestors of the Sera people, a West African ethnic group with deep spiritual ties to the land. The Sera maintain a strong tradition of funerary customs, and some oral histories speak of stone arrangements linked to burial practices. However, the evidence remains circumstantial. There are no clear archaeological links between the earliest Sera communities and the construction of the largest or oldest circles. Another theory places the origin of the circles in the hands of pre-Islamic West African communities, possibly arising during the period between 300 BCE and 1600 CE. Excavations at some sites, such as Siningayen, have revealed human burials at the center of certain circles, suggesting that these monuments may have served as cemeteries or sacred ritual grounds. Yet again, the question of who exactly orchestrated these elaborate constructions and how they coordinated efforts across such a vast landscape remains elusive. There's also a more speculative angle that the stone circles were constructed by a now-lost civilization, one that flourished and vanished long before the rise of more documented empires in the region. Given the level of organization, skill, and labor required to build these megaliths, such a civilization would have had a robust social hierarchy and a sophisticated understanding of engineering. But no trace of such a culture has been unearthed in surrounding areas. No cities, no tools, no definitive pottery styles, just stone and silence. Could it be that the knowledge of their builders was intentionally forgotten or absorbed into the cultural memory of newer groups over centuries of migration, conquest, and change? What makes the mystery even more profound is the incredible labor that must have gone into creating the stone circles. Quarrying laterite is no small feat. The stone must be extracted from the ground, shaped while still soft, and then left to harden in open air. Some of these columns weigh more than a ton and would have required coordinated teams, tools, and transportation systems to move and erect them. Given the sheer volume, nearly 30,000 standing stones, one must assume a highly organized society was behind their creation. But where are the palaces of the elite, the workshops of the masons, the records of the priesthood? These are the usual trappings of a megalithic culture, and yet in Senegambia, they are conspicuously absent. All we have are the circles themselves, stoic, quiet, and unreadable. Many of the circles are associated with human graves, sometimes directly within the circle, other times just outside. At sites like Wanar and Sineingayin, excavations have revealed bones, funerary urns, beads, and iron weapons, all pointing to a ritualistic or symbolic purpose. The spatial arrangement of stones, often aligned with cardinal directions, also hints at possible cosmological or spiritual meanings. But even here, the trail grows cold. Were these monuments built to honor ancestors, to celebrate tribal leaders, or to invoke protection from deities? Did they represent unity among scattered villages, or serve as territorial markers? With no written language or pictographs to explain their purpose, each answer remains speculative. Today, the stone circles of Senegambia are recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, not only for their immense archaeological value, but also for their role in highlighting the complexity of West African history. They remind us that Africa's past is not just one of oral legends or colonial encounters, but of engineering, architecture, ritual, and forgotten empires. And yet the most powerful feature of these monuments may be their silence, a silence that challenges us to question what we think we know about civilization. In a world dominated by scripts and empires, the builders of Senegambia left no name, no title, no claim of conquest. They left stone shaped and placed with purpose, inviting us to look, wonder, and interpret. Local communities today often treat the circles with respect, sometimes avoiding them altogether, citing ancestral or spiritual significance. While they may not know the full story of the builders, they are custodians of the mystery, and that too is a form of historical continuity. In many ways, the stone circles of Senegambia are not just relics of the past. They are ongoing questions. They invite a re-evaluation of how history is preserved, who is remembered, and how much we may never know. In their enduring presence, they quietly challenge the idea that all civilizations must leave behind monuments of conquest or wealth. Sometimes the most profound monuments are those whose very purpose was never to be explained, but to be experienced. Thousands of stone pillars rising from the soil of West Africa, yet no names, no inscriptions, no known builders. Are they the echoes of a lost civilization? The legacy of ancestors whose wisdom has slipped beyond memory? Or perhaps they are a testament to something deeper, a universal human desire to mark time, honor life, and reach toward the divine. Until the day we find a definitive answer, they will remain as they have for centuries, silent sentinels of a forgotten world waiting for us to understand. Off the northern coast of mainland Scotland lies a remote archipelago known as the Orkney Islands, wind-swept, sea-battered, and hauntingly beautiful. These islands hide one of the greatest prehistoric enigmas of Europe, the chambered cairns of Orkney. These are not just burial tombs. They are monumental stone structures, some built over 5,000 years ago, that seem to encode astronomical knowledge, ritual significance, and architectural mastery far beyond what we would expect from Neolithic communities. But perhaps the most mind-bending mystery of all is this: how did a society without metal tools, without writing, and without complex machinery construct these massive stone tombs and align them so precisely with the movements of the sun? What knowledge did they possess? Who were they really? What do you think? How could Neolithic people with no metal, no writing, and no machines build massive stone structures with such astronomical precision? What tools or methods might they have used? Could they have known something we've lost to time? And the biggest question, who were they really? Share your theories in the comments below. Were they forgotten ancient geniuses? Or is there something here that still escapes modern understanding? At first glance, a chambered cairn in Orkney may appear to be nothing more than a grass-covered mound with a few ancient stones protruding from a windswept field. But once you step inside, everything changes. The most iconic of these is Maeshowe, a stone tomb located on Orkney's main island, dating back to around 2800 BCE. Inside, you don't just find a dry stone chamber constructed without mortar, you experience the astonishing precision of sunlight. On the exact day of the winter solstice, when the sun sets at its lowest point in the year, a single beam of light travels through Maeshowe's long and narrow passage, striking the innermost burial chamber. This phenomenon occurs only for a few days each year and only for a brief moment. It demonstrates that the alignment was calculated with incredible accuracy far beyond mere coincidence. This is not just architecture, it is a masterpiece of stone and astronomy crafted by human hands over 5,000 years ago. And Maeshowe is not alone. Dozens of other cairns, such as Unstan Tavasu, Tuik Queen Hill, and Widford Hill, all reveal a similar combination of complex design and solar or lunar orientation. These are not merely tombs, they are ritual monuments of cosmic scale, as if ancient people were trying to send a message about life, death, and the eternal cycle of time. The fact that a stone tomb could be aligned so precisely that the setting sun on the winter solstice shines directly into its inner chamber is far from coincidental. Achieving this requires an astonishing level of understanding, from years of tracking the sun's annual cycle to the ability to determine direction and spatial positioning with accuracy, all accomplished without writing, without modern measuring instruments. How could Neolithic communities in Orkney living on isolated islands, without clocks, telescopes, or celestial charts, identify the rarest moment of the year when the sun reaches its lowest point on the horizon. Some scholars suggest that these ancient people passed down knowledge through generations of careful observation. They watched where the sun rose and set, how it changed with the seasons, and gradually marked celestial events using stones, ground markers, or oral tradition. But other theories propose that structures like Mesho weren't just for tracking the sky, they embodied a deeply ritualistic cosmology where the sun's cycle symbolized life, death, and rebirth. In this view, the dead weren't simply buried in darkness, they were placed in position to be reawakened by sunlight each year at the solstice as a sacred promise that life continues beyond death. Whether one interprets it as practical or spiritual, the technical precision required still stuns us today. Even with modern tools, aligning a stone corridor to catch a single beam of sunlight on a single day each year is no simple task. And yet these so-called primitive farmers, with nothing but stone tools and antler picks, made it happen. Perhaps we have seriously underestimated the intellectual brilliance of prehistoric humanity. Inside Mesho, hidden behind its ancient grey stones, lies another mystery, not from the original builders, but from later intruders, the Vikings. Around the 12th century, they broke into the cairn and left behind numerous runic inscriptions carved into the stone walls. These carvings range from crude jokes and claims of presence to symbols with ambiguous meaning, as if trying to leave a message that transcends time. What's strange is this: even the Vikings, masters of navigation and warfare, did not understand the true purpose of Mesho. They left behind words. But the original builders chose to leave behind structure, shadow, and lighter language beyond writing, leaving future generations to interpret it in silence. One thing that continues to astonish archaeologists is how the chambered cairns of Orkney are visually connected to other ancient monuments in the region, not by chance, but through deliberate spatial alignment. From the mound of Mesho, one can see directly toward the standing stones of Stennis, the massive ring of Brodgar, and even the Neolithic village of Skara Brae. Though separated by several kilometers, these sites form a ceremonial axis, linked by sightlines, terrain, and the movement of light. This interconnectedness suggests that the ancients weren't simply building tombs. They were constructing a sacred map in stone, where each location marked a moment in time, associated with seasonal festivals, solar and lunar cycles, and possibly even the spiritual structure of their society. Light, shadow, stone, and water became one, transforming the entire landscape into a natural timekeeping machine powered by ancient knowledge we have yet to fully comprehend. This is the core of the mystery and the heart of the fascination. Who were these ancient builders? Archaeology tells us they were part of a Neolithic farming society, one that arrived in Orkney around 3600 BCE. They built houses, cultivated land, raised livestock. But they also constructed stone temples, sun-aligned tombs, and megalithic rings. This was not a primitive people. This was a culture with abstract thinking, spatial mastery, and a spiritual system that demanded incredible architectural expression. But how did they cut, move, and place stones, weighing several tons without metal tools or pulleys? How did they measure angles and positions of the sun across seasons? How did they preserve knowledge long enough to execute such projects when no writing existed? Even more perplexing, why go through the enormous effort to align tombs with the sun? Was it for the dead, for the gods, or for something even deeper? A way of understanding existence, of ensuring cosmic harmony? The answers remain buried in silence. No inscriptions, no blueprints, just stone. And yet the stones speak in their alignment, in their endurance, in their mystery. In recent years, some scholars have begun to view the Orkney cairns not simply as tombs, but as transmitters of knowledge built to communicate something to the future. Could it be that their alignment with the winter solstice was meant to convey a message about light returning after darkness, about hope embedded in the cycle of time? If so, that message still resonates. Each year, when the sun sets on December 21st and its rays pierce the darkness of Mayshow's chamber, we are reminded of something profound that even in the depths of winter light finds its way through stone. Before Rome laid its first stone, before Athens carved its first statue, somewhere in the forgotten heart of Anatolia, a secret was sealed beneath the soil. For over 2,800 years, it lay untouched. No legends, no records, no hint of its presence. Then in 2018, archaeologists, brushing away layers of earth in Archaeological, made a discovery so out of place, so shockingly sophisticated, that it forced historians to stop and ask, who created this, and how could such refined artistry exist at a time when the Western world still walked in shadows? What they found was not a mural, not a temple wall, not a sculpture, but a floor. A floor composed of tiny, hand-cut stones, arranged with impossible precision into patterns so hypnotic, so mathematically complex, they felt like a message from a forgotten civilization. This is Archaeological mosaic, a masterpiece that defies chronology, breaks all artistic expectations, and whispers from the silence of the past in a visual language we are only beginning to decipher. What do you think this mosaic was truly made for? Was it simply decorative? Or could it hold a sacred message, mathematical knowledge, or an ancient code long forgotten? Share your theory in the comments below. Let's see how far modern minds can go in decoding this ancient mystery. The discovery of the mosaic at Archaeological has shaken the archaeological world not merely because of its geometric beauty, but because it challenges the entire timeline we once believed about the development of mosaic art. Dated to around the 9th century BCE, this mosaic predates the oldest known Greek mosaics, previously thought to be the birthplace of the technique by at least 400 years. Until now, historians widely considered mosaic art a product of the Greco-Roman world, but the geometric flaw at Archaeological suggests that Anatolian culture may have independently developed its own refined aesthetic system and decorative techniques. What's most remarkable is not just its age, but the craftsmanship, the precision of form, and the visual language, a kind of aesthetic DNA that shows no trace of influence from the ancient Mediterranean. This is not simply ancient, it is an artistic revolution that emerged far earlier than anyone expected. Most ancient mosaics familiar to us are composed of small square tiles called tesserae, made from colored stones, marble glass, or ceramic. These were meticulously laid to form portraits, mythological scenes, or naturalistic images in villas, bathhouses, and public spaces. The Roman tradition elevated this to an art form of vibrant realism. But the Archaeological mosaic is something else entirely. It does not aim to imitate life. It does not try to depict gods, animals, or people. It does not use vivid color to seduce the eye. Instead, it captures the viewer with a kind of ancient abstraction, mathematical, spiritual, and ritualistic. The mosaic is made from small, precisely cut limestone pieces, most shaped into isosceles triangles, no larger than a few centimeters across. These were arranged with astonishing regularity to form interlocking zigzag motifs, diamond shapes, and rhythmic mirrored geometries. The level of precision is remarkable, especially considering the time and tools likely available. Each piece was carved by hand from local stone, fitted without mortar, and laid flush into the compacted earth. The result is a visual texture of rhythmic energy, as if the floor pulses with the logic of a forgotten code. The use of only natural limestone, without pigment or artificial coloring, means the entire artwork relies solely on shape contrast and repetition to achieve its effect. This minimalism, far from being primitive, feels intentional, like a statement. It reflects a conceptual design ethos, one that values order, symmetry, and perhaps even metaphysical harmony over sensory excess. Even the geometric patterns themselves seem to reject simple decoration. The floor feels ritualistic, not just beautiful, but meaningful. It could be a visual expression of cosmology, a map of spiritual balance, or a coded language lost to time. The fact that such patterns appear in a non-domestic context, likely a sacred or administrative building, only deepens the mystery. Was this floor a visual invocation of cosmic order, a symbolic foundation for spiritual ceremony, a means of imprinting cultural identity through geometry? We do not know, but we feel unmistakably that this was not just flooring. It was a canvas of cultural depth, executed with tools and vision we are only beginning to comprehend. Found at the archaeological site of Uşaklı, a once important Hittite and later Phrygian settlement, the mosaic lay hidden for nearly 3 millennia. It remained untouched, protected by layers of earth, forgotten by history until its rediscovery in 2018 by a team of Turkish and Italian archaeologists. Its state of preservation is breathtaking. Most of the geometric patterns are intact, and the stones have maintained their alignment despite centuries of pressure and erosion. This preservation is key. Many ancient sites have suffered looting, reconstruction, or simple degradation. But the Uşaklı mosaic is like a message in a bottle, from the past, sealed silent, and now finally opened. The building in which it was found also tells a story. Unlike Roman mosaics typically found in elite villas, this floor was part of a more communal or official structure. It was not meant for comfort or domestic pleasure. Its purpose, again, seems symbolic or ceremonial. This disconnect from Roman traditions forces us to re-examine our assumptions. Mosaics may not have been merely decorative art imported from the Mediterranean elite. Perhaps they had older, deeper roots in the religious or political landscapes of Anatolian cultures, a language of power and belief written in stone. In many ways, the Uşaklı mosaic is not just a discovery. It's a challenge, a provocation. It tells us that there are entire chapters of human creativity we have yet to uncover. That symmetrical design, abstract thinking, and complex stoneworking were present far earlier and far more widespread than previously believed. It invites comparisons with other ancient geometric traditions, the patterns of the early Islamic world, the tiles of Mesopotamia, or the Neolithic symbols etched into megalithic sites. But unlike those, this mosaic sits at the crossroads of function and abstraction, floor and ritual, silence and brilliance. And it raises the question, what else is still buried beneath our feet? What other artistic revolutions have we mistakenly attributed to Rome, to Greece, or to the Renaissance, when in fact they began in the soft, fertile soils of forgotten valleys? We do not know the name of the artisan who created this. We do not know what culture trained their hand, what philosophy shaped their vision. But we know this: they were not just laying stones. They were communicating, through rhythm, through geometry, through the cold permanence of limestone. And now, after 3,000 years of silence, we are finally listening. Hidden in the Japanese countryside lies a massive stone structure, and no one knows why it exists. There are no inscriptions, no signs of builders, no explanation. It rests silently among the green hills of Asuka, as if forgotten by time, or placed there by a civilization that no longer exists. People call it Masuda no Iwafuni, or the Asuka giant stone, but the name only adds to the mystery. No one knows what it was created for. No one can explain its bizarre shape. And to this day, archaeologists, engineers, and even fringe researchers all share one thing in common: none of them understand this stone. What do you think? The Asker giant stone is proof that some things from the past remain completely beyond our current understanding. Sometimes a silent rock can raise more questions than any written record. So, what do you think this stone truly is? A foundation, a ritual object, an ancient astronomical monument, or something far beyond our imagination? Share your theory in the comments below. And remember, sometimes it's the unexplained that pushes science and imagination forward the most. The Asker giant stone, also known as Masuda no Iwafune, is a massive granite monolith weighing around 800 tons, measuring nearly 11 meters long, 8 meters wide, and 4.7 meters high. It stands completely isolated on a small hillside, unconnected to any nearby ruins or ancient structures. What makes it truly remarkable is not just its enormous size, but its strangely unique shape and its entirely unknown purpose. The structure looks like something that doesn't belong to any known era, raising far more questions than answers. This is what makes the Asker giant stone truly mysterious and unique. Unlike any ancient stone ever discovered, not a tomb, not an altar, not a sculpture, Masuda no Iwafune looks like a massive upside-down ship planted in the ground with an unusually flat, sharply cut surface. In fact, its name in Japanese can be translated as the Stone Ship of Masuda. On top of the stone, two square-shaped ridges rise in parallel with a deep, rectangular trench carved cleanly between them. This groove appears to have been deliberately shaped, yet there is no indication of what it was meant for. The design does not resemble any known architectural pattern or religious symbol in Japanese history. In fact, it bears no clear cultural connection to temples, burial mounds, or ancient astronomical observatories. Some scholars have speculated that it may be an unfinished foundation for a larger structure, or perhaps a remnant of an ancient Shinto ritual site. However, the problem is that there is nothing else like it anywhere in the region, no similar structures, no stylistic references. It stands alone, isolated, as if it came from an entirely different civilization. Even the orientation and layout of the stone raise questions. Why two parallel ridges? Why carve a rectangular trench so precisely in the center? If it was for water drainage or ritual purposes, why the extreme precision and effort? Its odd shape, almost as if it doesn't belong to any known era, has led some to describe it in poetic, even provocative terms. Masuda no Iwafune doesn't look like an artifact from ancient human hands. It looks like a giant piece of forgotten technology left behind by a long-lost civilization, or something not of this earth. The fact that the Asker stone was carved from granite, one of the hardest natural materials on Earth, poses one of the greatest mysteries surrounding this structure. With a hardness second only to diamond, granite is extremely difficult to shape, especially considering the tools and techniques that would have been available over 400 years ago. Yet, the surface of the stone has been finished in a way that is strikingly flat, sharply defined, and so precise it appears almost unnatural, with no visible traces of chiseling, sawing, or any use of metal tools. There are no cut lines, no signs of abrasion, and no mechanical markings. All that remains is a silent structure, with geometrically exact lines as if it were crafted using technology far beyond its time. This leads to a central question. What tools did ancient people use to carve this stone? And why would they go to such effort? There are no historical records, no folklore, and no archaeological documentation related to its construction. It's as if it was created and then completely abandoned never finished, never used. The Asuka region once served as the ancient capital of Japan during the Asuka period 538–710 CE, and to this day it preserves many important historical relics such as old Buddhist temples, keyhole-shaped burial mounds, kofun stone reliefs, and remnants of ancient Shinto rituals. This area is considered rich in cultural and spiritual heritage, where Buddhist influence intersected with native beliefs. However, nowhere in the entire region is there any structure that shares the shape style or scale of the Asuka giant stone. It stands in complete isolation, with no architectural, symbolic, or ritual connection to anything else known. Some Japanese scholars have suggested that it may have been a primitive astronomical device, possibly used to track the movement of the sun or mark seasonal events. But if that were true, why is there only a single stone? Why are there no accompanying markers, scales, or directional indicators? These questions render the theory vague at best, as if the stone exists completely disconnected from the civilization that surrounded it. For decades, the Asuka giant stone has been at the center of numerous theories, ranging from scholarly interpretations grounded in science to bold mystical speculations. Some researchers believe it may be the unfinished foundation of a religious structure, possibly used in ancient Shinto rituals, but abandoned for unknown reasons. Others lean toward the idea that it was a primitive astronomical device, perhaps intended to track the sun or mark seasonal events. There are also scholars who view the structure as symbolic, like a stone gateway to the afterlife, reflecting the spiritual beliefs of ancient Japan. Some suggest it was a technical experiment designed to test the limits of stone quarrying and craftsmanship in ancient times. However, as conventional theories failed to fully explain the stone's shape and astonishing precision, more fringe ideas have emerged, including the notion that it is a relic of a lost civilization or even a trace of extraterrestrial technology. While no solid evidence supports these wilder speculations, the mystery endures and continues to ignite the imagination of humanity. To this day, Masuda no Iwafune has never been officially classified as a religious site, a tomb, or an astronomical device. Although it lies within the Asuka Cultural Heritage Area, the stone has no signposts, no interpretive materials, and no official explanation from authorities or scholars. It simply exists, a massive, mysterious, and silent monolith that makes anyone who approaches it stop and wonder who created this and why did they do it. These questions still hang in the air unanswered.